Well, winter's in full swing up here. I think it's time we get the Gryffin finished up. Right. Hey everybody. Wow. It's nasty outside. Okay. Welcome to the third and final part on the JANUS Gryffin 250 revamp project. This has been a really fun one so far. I really have enjoyed the mods that have been installed so far. As you can see behind me, there's a couple little things on there that, I might have not mentioned the last video. That's all right. So that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. We are going to finish the carburetor install, and we are going to go ahead and throw on the remaining mods that I have selected to go on this bike. When I first started off, pretty much my main idea was basically carb and exhaust, tires, XYZ, and I'm like, whatever, I'll film it and everything like that. But then as time went on, I just kept getting ideas. They kept popping up into my head. I'm like, oh, how cool would it be if it had this? Or, oh, how cool would it be if it had that? So anyway, I'm done brainstorming now. And now we are going to finally get this thing finished up and throw on the carburetor and the last two mods that are going to go on this bike, and they're going to look super cool. I want this thing to just look like awesome heading down the road. It's going to be super cool. People are going to look at it and be like, what the heck is that thing? So super excited about it. Let's get to it straight away, getting this carburetor installed, and then we'll move on to those mods that I was telling you about. We just got a major snowstorm. Not really major, but we're in the middle of a winter storm warning. So time to get back to the Gryffin a couple days later. So here's the carburetor. We're going to get this guy installed today. It comes with jets. Like I said, Motocall goes over this on their YouTube channel, basically on how to install this whole kit. So like I said, I won't go too crazy on the how-to aspect of it. Of course, comes with the reducer boot, the carburetor itself. They even send fresh JANUS specific gaskets. I like that. That's nice. Carburetor itself, beautifully machined. Really like the way these things look. They remind me of a really nice Mikuni, which Mikuni carbs are fantastic, as most people know. So, and then of course in the bottom too, they included some stickers. They included 4 of them. So you get 4 stickers along with it. I'm not really a big sticker guy when it comes to my JANUS bikes. I like them kind of the way they are. Kind of why mess with a piece of art, I guess. But I do like to put the stickers inside the air box. So that way when you pull the air lid off, you can see what you're working with. So, I don't know. So anyway, okay, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get started on getting this installed. I'll probably maybe start with just pulling the carburetor out. I haven't pulled the carburetor out yet because I like to just kind of do everything in one rip. So it goes back together exactly the way it's supposed to. Oh, and another thing too that they had mentioned on some of the forums was that a lot of people had recommended that we remove this air breather hose and cap it off, and then run the engine case breather into the airbox somehow. So I'm not really sure how we're going to approach that. I even was tempted to figure out a way to maybe get like a little breather neck style, maybe like filter for it. So I'm not really sure how we're gonna go about that. So I don't know, join me as we figure out a solution for this today. So, yeah, so fuel's already off. I'm going to go ahead and drain the carburetor just because I had to put gas in it earlier to fire it up. But, yeah, let's go ahead and get this carburetor out. Oh, I guess another thing to note, too, for those fellow JANUS owners out there as well who are planning on doing this conversion. One of the things that I actually found that makes doing this quite a bit easier is that normally you would see a stud here. So normally how JANUS sets it up, at least on the older models, I don't know if they do this on the newer ones or not, but they put a stud in here, and then that stud just is threaded into the intake body, and then there's just a nut off the other side. what I did, and then these bolts here that you're seeing were going into the engine, the cylinder head. What I did was I reversed that. So I moved the studs that were originally in here, and I moved them over to here, and then I put the nut on this side, because 99% of the time, you're going to remove the carburetor way more frequently than you are the entire intake manifold. By doing this, it allows you to remove these bolts completely, and then it allows you to undo these hose clamps, slide your hose collar back, and then it allows the carburetor to actually come out without having to take the air box out. Because I remember I've been told before that in order to get the carburetor out, you had to take the whole air box out, and I was like, and I've done it before, and it's a huge pain in the neck. There's a bunch of tiny little bolts back here, and I think there's a couple in the top of the air box here, but you have to take the lid off on the other side. It turns into a whole thing really quick. So changing that stud to bolt over made a massive difference. So that's something I really wanted to point out. So that way, in the event that you guys end up doing this, it just makes life so much easier in the future. But like I said, this is kind of something that's covered in a different video on MotoCult's channel. So I'm going to go ahead and time lapse this and get this carburetor out. Okay, so I got the stock Keihin carburetor out, and like I said, these things are half decent. I've heard some people have some kind of mixed results with them. I personally haven't really had many issues with mine. But here are the carburetors side by side. So you got the stock, you have the Nibby carburetor here. The choke mechanism is going to be different. This is the choke on the stock one. See, it just flips a butterfly valve up. And then this one uses actually a choke circuit within passages within the carburetor to choke the bike. The openings across these two are vastly different. So if I open up the choke on this, you are going to see, look at the difference. I don't know if you guys can see the difference of that one. Like, so there's the stock one, and then here is the Nibby carburetor, and holy cats, big difference. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing what this thing's going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one opened up and see what our jet sizes are. And then I already opened this one to check and see what jet sizes were in it, but I want to open it again. And I want to compare them because I'm probably going to want similar jets, but I'm going to want these jets to be obviously a little spicier. I'm pretty sure these are set up from MotoCult already. So, but we're just going to double check and just make sure everything looks good inside there. Yeah, we'll go ahead and get to installing the new throttle cable. So that'll be next. So never actually had one of these apart before. Maybe I have, I'm not sure, but we'll get this thing swapped out and then we'll go from there. Okay, so the factory cables, I should say cables because it actually is one cable that splits into two. And it splits into two because one cable runs to your slide and your carb, and then the other cable runs to the accelerator pump. These are just some cheap bar and weights I got off of Amazon. They are on the heavy side. But I got these because JANUS wants quite a bit of money for their bar and weights, and rightfully so. They're extremely well made. They're made in-house and everything, but I figured since this is an off-road bike, I really didn't want to put on a really nice set of machined bar end weights, and maybe if I end up tipping the bike over or something, I don't want to end up damaging them, scuffing them up and chewing them up. So I just got some cheap ones, and I got the weights because it definitely helps with vibration. Otherwise, if you just do end caps, you're basically just doing it out of looks, and I'm not really for that. So, yeah, fighting me a little bit. What is going on? Has this ever been out? Probably not. This cable's... There it goes. Holy buckets. Got it. Ugh. Good heavens. That was really in there. Alright, cool. This part's free. Let's get a new cable installed. Alright, so these have like an adjustment on them, but usually when they're installed in the bike, you can't really adjust them unless you take apart the whole throttle assembly. So, yeah. Usually what I do is I kind of set them down more towards the bottom. And then I will do, if I do need to make any adjustments, I just make all of the adjustments at the carburetor. Normally that's not what you'd want to do, but this is gonna just have to work for now. Motocall also sells a short pull throttle cable for this bike too. I didn't opt for that because I'm not gonna sink a ton of performance into this bike. I really honestly just wanted some power improvements, and I think that this modifications that I've been doing are going to be more than adequate for that. Alright, perfect. That is ran or installed. Let's get it ran. I'm just going to run it through exactly how they had it. It seemed to work pretty good. I like the hidden cable concept. That's simple. So. I'm not going to lie, I kind of had a hard time finding information on tuning this entire setup. Most people, when they buy Motocult performance parts for their JANUS, they usually will get, they'll usually just get the stage 4 and call it a day. And there's a ton of information out there on the stage 4, and that's great. But I didn't buy the stage 4. So I'm kind of taking a shot in the dark, and could I call up Motocult? Absolutely, and I'm sure they'd help me in a heartbeat. But I kind of like a challenge, and sometimes I like to kind of learn, tweak, and do all this kind of stuff myself because it's fun. And sometimes you can feel a lot more accomplished by doing that. All right, just slid on my upgraded silicone boot here. And before we install the carburetor, I think I'm going to go through and this intake here, and I think I'm going to change the gaskets out to the ones that they provided. I just put a new one in here not too long ago, but I don't know, if they provided new gaskets, I might as well just throw them in. So do that, and then I'm going to take a look and see maybe what it would take to take this breather hose off of here and reroute it or something like that. I'm not really sure yet. Okay, ouch. Well, I just tried to use the bristle drill death wheel thing, and yeah, it jumped off and bit me. So we're going to switch to a flat edge instead. Is it safer? I don't know. Probably not, but whatever. When one cuts you, you switch to another thing that can cut you just as bad, if not worse. I see that. It's fine. This gasket's likely never been off, and I think it was powder coated at one point, and then the gasket was placed on there, which is why I went to the wire wheel, because I was like, well, I could probably kill two birds with one stone by removing the gasket and powder coat at the same time, but then it jumped and then it bit me good. I'm not a fan of replacing old gaskets like this. Halfway tempted just to take this clamp off of here and remove it all together and then put it in on a flat surface. I'm going to do that. It's just a lot safer. Alright, finally got that freaking clip off. I had to use a pair of snips. So, getting my freaking butt kicked over here. I'm just trying to remove some gaskets. Everything else on this project has gone relatively smooth, but that, I don't know, this doesn't want to bite or get off. Oh, my Lanta. Help me understand this. I'm about to go full Karen on this thing. There we go. Oh, little budge. I'm gonna wreck my hose. It doesn't help that my garage is a mess either. I cannot. Oh, that was gonna be one of the things I was gonna do today, was clean it. This is insane. This thing is almost like glued on here. What is happening? Vice grips. Put it on there, and you kind of squeeze it down, and you see how that slides forward as I squeeze. That loosens up that hose and forces it to get bigger. But if this thing's glued on here, like I'm starting to kind of suspect it is, then this thing's not going to want to come off at all. We're going to just put a slit in it, and then we'll just cut it shorter. I'm not going to sit and mess with this all day. Getting a little frustrated. What is going on? There we go. Holy crap. That is like full-blown glued or something on there. Good heavens. Finally. Okay. I'm going to clip this back now. And we're going to get to scraping the gasket off after 12 years and 37 months. Okay, so it's been actually more than a couple of minutes. Basically, I got the gasket cleaned off of this finally. I took it to the belt sander because it's got a nice flat backing to it, and kind of just stuck it to it, rotated it, did that just to maintain my surface. I didn't take it all the way down to the metal in terms of the belt sander. I took it all the way down to the metal using the wire wheel on my drill press to get that rest of that coating off. So now we got a nice, clean, flat, machined-like surface. I had a chunk of 3/8 hose laying around, some PCV valve hose, and I just used a Allen bolt that has the same diameter head, so it looks nice and clean. And then I just wrapped the threads in a gasket maker, and then slid it down inside there, and then I put these clamps on both sides just to make sure. Stuck it up to my mouth, pressure tested it, all that kind of stuff, and it's very tight. So hopefully that's not going to be a problem. If it is in the future, then we'll deal with it then. But I went ahead and got our gaskets done. So there's a spacer, and there you got 2 gaskets that come with the kit. So we went ahead and slapped on a first gasket, spacer, second gasket. Now we can go ahead and put our intake back on. And then we can move on to getting the carburetor installed. Before I move on to getting the carburetor installed permanently though, I think I am going to figure out where I want to go with our PCV valve hose. And I think that most people online, from what I've been seeing, run it right into the airbox. I really would hate to drill a hole in my airbox, but I really don't know where else to go with it, and it needs to be vented into the intake system somehow. So that's probably what I'm going to do next is, unfortunately, drill a hole in the airbox. Can always put a plug in it in the future, worst case scenario. All right, so over on the other side now, I went ahead and kind of bent this hose back this way a little bit. I'm thinking we're going to drill more towards the top and kind of off to the side here. So that way, if we ever need to service it or do anything like that, we have full access to that. I don't have any bulkhead fittings or barb fittings or anything like that for this to really like plug into. Maybe I'll do something in the future. Maybe I'll do like an enlarged strain relief or something of some kind. But it's going to have to be somewhat sealed. So what I'm going to start by doing is just drilling a hole in the airbox, just slightly smaller than the hose. And I'm just going to shove it in there. And that's just what we're going to do for now. This is going to hurt. These are not cheap airboxes, boys. But can always repair it. I got a welder. I think I'm going to stop there. Clean that burr up real quick inside there. Probably have to pull this lid again and suck out any of the shavings that might have dropped down in there. So that way those aren't bouncing around out in there. The hole looks nice and clean. Try not to blow stuff around too much. I never plugged my intake off over here, but it's all right. All right, doesn't seem like that's going to fit, so we're going to step it up just one more size. Alright, I should be able to get that now. Just going to have to really, really push. Oh, look at that. Mint. There we go. Might just get it kind of squared up. Might even zip tie it back to these things here. And there we go. All right, much better. I think what I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to put a clamp on the inside here. So that way, in the event that I'm riding along, I doubt this will happen, but just in case, I really want to make sure that this hose is never going to come out or slide around. So I'm probably going to just put a clamp on this side over here just to make sure that doesn't happen. Didn't have anything smaller, so we're just going to use this hose clamp. Kind of ghetto. Not a huge fan of doing stuff like this typically, but I don't think this is going to hurt anything. Don't want it too tight. There we go. That'll work. All right, now it's time to finish getting our carburetor installed. All right, so, ow, that hurt. I found a problem that I did not foresee. This is the bolt. Remember earlier when I said we would change this from a stud, or we moved the studs from up here to down here? Well, that was fine on the old carburetor, but now it's not going to work on this carburetor because of the choke mechanism is in the way. So I can't get a bolt inside here now versus the old one where I could. See that? So the only option I can think of really would be to take one of these studs back out, which means that I'd have to take all this back apart again. And I don't see any other way around it because this intake angles this way. And so it's not like I can just get a shorter bolt and stick it through there, or even back here and just put a nut on this side. It's just not going to work. So I'm going to have to take it all back apart again just to freaking move one stud. So I would move just one, but I'm going to, I don't know, maybe I should just do both while I have it all apart. 'Cause that's how JANUS had it and whatever. So, all right, well, I'm going to do that now, I guess. All right, fellas, I got updates. Finally got it in there. So what did I do? Basically, we're running bolts on this side, and then we're running studs on this side. So essentially what I ended up doing was I ended up just taking one stud out from the other side of this intake manifold, and I just put it on this side. The reason why I did that was because A, it was faster, and B, now if we want to change the jetting in the carburetor, which I know is going to be probably inevitable, I can just take this bolt out, loosen up a hose clamp, and now I can spin the whole carburetor up, and I can take the bowl off and change the jets without much fuss. So that is going to be way better. I got to get these hose clamps on really quick and hook up the fuel line, and then I think I'm going to send some gas to it and just see what happens. So yeah, let's go from there. All right, just got the fuel line hooked up. I think I'm going to get the gas turned on here and check for leaks. Nothing yet. Get this drip hose rerouted quick, just in case. So far, nothing. Letting that bowl fill up right now. Well, that overflow line is actually pinched off. There we go. Yeah, that was pinched off behind this PCV style hose. Hopefully this thing fires up. Let's find out. Alright, let's see what happens. Hopefully this goes. Probably choke it. Key on. Alright, hopefully we got enough juice. Holy crap, that was instant. Wow. I'm not sure to choke off. Turn the idle up a little bit, maybe. Holy crap, that fired up instantly. Wow. Oh, it runs so good. I need a little more heat in the motor yet. Getting enough fuel. Alright, so I think it might not be getting enough fuel. Very snappy off the line, but then it kind of wants to rev up just a little bit on its own, which tells me it's a lean condition. So I think we might throw a slightly larger jet in it. I don't want to mess with the air or the air fuel screw too much. I think I went down to the smallest jet that came in the car with the carburetor. So I'm just going to bump it up to a 130. I think it came with a 135 in it. I've dropped it to a 125, and now I think I'm going to try to put the 130 in it and see if we can get a little bit more out of it. The exhaust also smells lean as well. Typically with a lean exhaust, it smells kind of like metal a little bit. When with a rich exhaust, it smells very fumey, like it smells like kind of like an old car without a catalytic converter. But yeah, awesome. I mean, that's exactly what we wanted. It fired right up. It did exactly what we wanted it to do. But yeah, I think we just need a little bit more fuel, so not a big deal. Okay, made a couple changes. I put in a 135. I said I was going to do a 130, but I actually went online and double checked some information, and there was a guy saying that he was running a 140, and he had some similar setup to mine. So I'm going to say, let's jump for the 135 and see what happens. What I was talking about earlier about doing the bolts on the one side and the studs over on the other worked amazing. I was able to just take out this one bolt, loosen up this hose clamp, and then just loosen this nut on the other side. And I was literally able to spin the whole carburetor up, take the bolt off, and I was able to change the jet in just like 60 seconds. So completely, totally worth it. If you guys are doing this, I would heavily recommend doing that. So I also rerouted this fuel line a little bit. I put the longer end of it on this side, so that way this fuel filter isn't rubbing against the frame, because if I'm off-roading and this thing just continuously beats against the frame, it could actually cause this fuel line to leak while I'm on the trail, and that could be bad because obviously, yeah, you don't want that. So that was the changes that I made. Let's try and fire it up again. All right, let's take another crack at it. I got the gas turned down already. I'm going to try not to choke it this time and see what happens. Okay. That's fine too. All right, all right. So that came with the 135 in it. And I went to the 125 and I felt like it was running a little too lean. I threw the 135 back in, and then I dialed the air screw out, or the fuel screw out, about half a turn. And it seems to be pretty happy with that, but we won't really know until we actually get it out on the road and give it some gas. And put some miles on it too. Once we put the miles on the bike, then we can read the plug and see what the plug is telling us, because if we want that chocolatey, kind of darker chocolatey brown color, and anything lighter than that, I don't know, probably running a hair lean on the lean side then. But unfortunately, that's all we can really do for now. There's 6 inches of snow that just fell today, so I don't really think that there's going to be much further tuning that we're going to be able to do with, unless we figure out a way to ride it somehow. But yeah. All right, it's actually been some time since we got the carburetor installed, maybe like a week or two, and we've done a few things, as you can see. First off, that's a little bit of a in your face. is this auxiliary fuel canister, lockable, mind you, very nice. I'll kind of show you really quick how I installed that. I went ahead and put the lockable key right on my, right on here, and then basically, oh, there we go, got her on there. It's nice and snug, like spin that guy off. And then basically, all I basically did was take a piece of stainless steel plate, and I just made it, go across at least 3 of these bars for stability. And then the auxiliary fuel canister came with the brackets and the U-bolt to do it. So from the other side, in my opinion, it looks a little tacky, but from the top side, it's nice and clean and it's sturdy. It's not going anywhere too. So, and that extra weight shouldn't sag down and touch that new taillight at all. So I'm really, really happy with how that turned out. And then the next modification that we did that I'm really thrilled about is this fly screen. JANUS wants $300, I think, for their fly screen. And it's a piece of plastic, 2 brackets, and a couple bolts. So I said I could make that. Now, mine's probably not going to be as pretty, for sure, because theirs is obviously, professionally made, and it looks amazing. So basically, all I did was take some angle iron, like so, drilled a bunch of holes in it just to give it a little bit of an aesthetically pleasing look. And I put some longer bolts in here that go into the headlight. So it just bolts up right to the headlight. I got some rubber back here, and then these are just roofing, like steel roof sheet metal screws. And they got these rubber gaskets on them. So I put a rubber gasket on one side, and then I put a rubber gasket in on the other side. So it kind of like rubber sandwiches the polycarbonate. And then I screwed it to just the rubber backing here. It looks a little ghetto, but I do plan on trimming the sharp parts off so it looks a little bit cleaner. But there's one thing about this fly screen I'm not a huge fan of, and it's that it's, I mean, look at that. Definitely worth the effort, but I feel like this thing is just going to flop all over the place while riding. And I don't like the look of the bottom, how it's completely flat like that. It doesn't complement the headlight at all. And it is a completely flat freaking piece of plastic. So I got a better idea. So part of the project today is going to be to take this piece of plastic off, and we're actually going to use, I already kind of made it out here. We're going to use this piece of plastic here. And we're going to cut out a much thicker piece. I mean, this is just much thicker stuff, much better quality. We're going to cut out a piece of that, and then we're going to drill the holes for it and do that. And then on the new piece too, I actually cut it out, I set it up to where it was an inch taller. So that way we can sort of carve out the bottom of it on the belt sander and make it kind of somewhat sort of hug that headlight a little bit. And then the idea is I would like to try to maybe take that piece of polycarbonate, put it in front of a heat source of some kind, and actually bend it like this a little bit. There is wiggle room in these screws here for a little bit of a contour. So I think that's going to be the plan with that. And then that's going to be it. I think we'll call it there. So I know in one of the other videos I had mentioned the mirror situation. This is actually the mirror off my Halcyon 450. I just threw a little bit of a bend into it like that, just to kind of aesthetically kind of drop it down a little bit. I didn't want it 17 feet in the air. So I think that turned out really nice as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and finish this entire project up by getting this cut out, drilled, shaped, everything, and then we'll throw it on the bike. So There we go. We got a bunch of carving to do now. Alright, I got some updates. I went ahead and used an old dog food bowl, a stainless one, to make it's kind of like the perfect radius for what I'm trying to go for. This is going to be the rough idea of what the bottom is going to look like. And then the top, I already went ahead and marked it out with the same bowl, but I kind of had to move it in a little bit. And then I just chopped off the corners. We'll take this over to the belt sander really quick. And then we'll go ahead and get everything all cleaned up real good. And then go from there. So I think it's going to look pretty sweet. So I might have to take the buffer wheel to it, though. That isn't a huge deal. Got some plastic polishing compound. And it's going to take a while, I think, to get it like as nice as this one. Because this is a brand new sheet right here. It's just dusty. But yeah, this one's actually like a used piece of like thick acrylic. So let's move from there. Okay. So I just spent about 17 hours on the belt grinder, and golly, that turned out nice. My heater's about to turn on. 1 second. There we go. Now that we've disabled that, yeah, this turned out pretty freaking sweet. I'm really excited to see how this looks on here. So I just think that's going to look so much cleaner. And then on top of that too, like I said, I'm going to try to give it like a little bit of a contour shape so it's not so flat. And then we need to buff it down too with some with a buffer and some plastic compound just to kind of bring it around a little bit. But look at how much thicker this is compared to this one. It is just night and day difference. So yeah, let's get this thing wrapped up and I'll drill some holes in. All right, I got this horrendously reflective trash can here, roughly the contour that I want. Now I think what we're going to try and do is take the heat gun and just very gently apply heat over this plastic until it starts to kind of sag down a little bit. And once it does that, we'll just leave it be for a sec, and then hopefully we have a nice, somewhat contoured windshield. It probably would be easier to buff it the way it sits, but I don't want to go through all the effort of buffing it just to find out that I ruined it, because I don't know if this is going to work or not. I just seen it online somewhere. So let's give that a shot really quick, I guess. All right, so I just spent the last like 5-10 minutes trying to heat it with the heat gun. And I even used my diesel heater, because that thing puts out just a ton of heat. And I got this thing warmed up like pretty hot. And I was like, I even had some, you know, like fire resistant gloves on, like insulated gloves, and I tried to get it to warp in a particular direction, and it kind of did it, but once it cooled off, it seemed to kind of just bounce back to where it was supposed to be. My original idea was to take my trash can and put the piece of plastic on top of it and then heat it, and then hopefully it kind of sagged around it. That didn't really work. I would have been here all day trying to heat that thing up. So I think we're just going to kind of just run it flat. It's still really warm right now, but I can at least get on to drilling my holes, and then we'll get this thing buffed up and then mounted up. All right, holes drilled. I just stuck the old one up to it, and I drilled the holes a little bit smaller this time, but this is the other reason why I wanted to replace. I wanted to go from this glass to this glass, is because not only did I mention it was really thin, but when I was drilling the holes last time, that's what happened. So I went a little too fast and cracked it. And if it cracked that easy with just very gentle drilling, I was really worried about what if something was to hit it while I was going down the road. This thing could just shatter and blow plastic all over me. So something much thicker, much sturdier. And these holes drilled so much easier than the other plastic. So that is what we are definitely going to use going forward. But I'm going to get this thing buffed up really quick, and then we'll be done. We'll install it, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. Yep. Give that a quick whip down with my towel that landed on the dirty ground. Yeah. If you squint, it's mint. No, it's not too bad looking. I like it. The one thing I also did not intentionally do, but I did anyways, is with me drilling, it's kind of hard to see, but I drilled multiple holes all the way down each side of this bracket unintentionally, because now what I can do is I can drill more holes in the future, and this will become adjustable. Yeah, didn't even try to do that. Maybe I did. I don't remember. But either way, wow, that's so much better. Look at how much sturdier that is. That's actually going to protect me against flying debris going down the road. The contour around the headlight looks so much cleaner as well. I really like that a lot. That turned out really clean. Like I said, I'll give her one more quick whip down just to make sure that that's gonna look clean, but golly gee whiz. Look at that. So I still wish I could have gotten a little bit of a contour out of it, but hey, I don't have the means of being able to do that, but I think that looks pretty cool. An actual fly screen probably would look a little bit better, but I don't know, guys. I'm pretty happy with the way that turned out. So still might whip up a quick mud flap for the back. I don't know yet. Let me know down in the comments what you think I should do. Yeah, there it is. 1,000 miles on this thing. So hopefully another 1,000 on next year. Guys, that is going to do it for the video series on the Gryffin 250. I'm really pleased with how all the modifications turned out with the homemade fly screen, the cage, the exhaust from Moto called the Nibby Carb, and the tail light debacle, and the fuel canister. The fuel canister looks a little big for the bike in my opinion, but my TW one is a 3 liter. This is a 5 liter. So aesthetically, I might go down to my storage unit and get my 1 or 3 liter off my TW and put this 5 liter on the TW, and then put the 3 liter, I don't know, you know where I'm going with it. Put the 3 liter on this bike basically. So I'm going to go ahead and get this thing wiped down really quick. The fuel's already shut off, the bowl's already drained, everything like that. And he's going into storage. So I know, sad day. It's all right, little buddy. Hook you up to a charger. We'll take care of you. So thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Please consider subscribing if you want to see more content on JANUS motorcycles and, of course, all my other shenanigans that I build. Eventually, we will have a 1911 Indian board track build on the channel. I have multiple engines to pick from up there amongst my mess, and that is going to be a ton of fun. Super excited to get that thing done as well. I have all the parts for that, but in the meantime, let's say goodbye to the Gryffin 250 until spring. And as you can probably hear, it's windy as heck outside. I got to jump on the four-wheeler here, and we are going to go scout out an area for our next video. So stay tuned for that. You're not going to want to miss this one. It's going to be super cool. Looking forward to filming it and showing you guys as well. So, all right, guys. See you next time.